Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Grounded. My dog is in here today, so if you hear some strange noises or you're watching on YouTube and you see him, that is why. Sometimes life happens and the dog ends up here. Today, though, I want to talk to you about supplements for migraine. Now, there he goes. There are a lot of different supplements for migraine, and I want to start off by saying that. And I want to let you know that just because someone takes one thing or another thing doesn't mean it's going to be right for you. I know plenty of people who these supplements don't work for at all, and lots of people who these supplements work better than other medication. So it's really so incredibly person dependent. I cannot even stress that enough. So again, it's just going to be something that's trial and error, just like the rest of migraine management. So that being said, the first one that people most frequently use is magnesium. The type of magnesium is going to be, of course, different for every person. I go over this more specifically in Vestibular Group Fit if you want to join there. The link is below and you can learn more about this. But basically, the main types that people take are oxide, citrate, threonate, and glycinate. Some are more gentle in your stomach, others less gentle, but helpful if you have constipation. Threonate crosses the blood-brain barrier. So some people say it gives them like that morning kick in the butt they need when they don't drink coffee. So very person dependent and somewhere usually between 400 and 800 milligrams a day. Some people take 60 milligrams, some people take 1,000 milligrams, but generally in that 400 to 800 is where we put most people. The next one is coenzyme Q10 or CoQ10. Some people call it Coke. It's CO, capital C, little o, capital Q, number 10. This is a coenzyme. It helps with basically breaking down of things because that is what enzymes do, and it turns them into energy. And there's a lack of energy in a migraine attack. We are not going to go into the science behind that, but basically we need more energy. And so coenzyme Q10 can be helpful there, typically around ish, approximately 300 milligrams a day, but please start slowly. And of course, never start any of these without your doctor. Starting a supplement without letting your doctor know would be the same thing as getting a prescription without your doctor knowing. Like it would be silly. Would not be something that I recommend doing ever. Next one is B2, aka riboflavin. And you guys should know up front that this will turn your pee neon orange. There's, of course, tons of science that goes into why we take B2/riboflavin as well, other than the fact that it turns your pee neon orange. But what you should know is that it tends to reduce the frequency and intensity of migraine, typically around 400 milligrams a day. But again, this is not something you would take without weaning onto it and without letting your doctor know. All of that is super, super, super important. I cannot stress this enough. The next one is vitamin D. Vitamin D is a hormone. It acts like a hormone, not a vitamin, which is shocking for a lot of people. I know it's a kind of a crazy thing. It helps your body in a more hormonal cascade than like a vitamin nutrient deficient cascade. Being vitamin D deficient can be really problematic for migraine and honestly really problematic for all vestibular disorders. This is one of those things where we don't understand the exact science of behind why we need it, but we know that we need it. Everyone needs a normal level of vitamin D. This is not one where the dose is specific to each or to like everyone at once. This is one where you need to get your vitamin D levels checked. If you're going outside and if you wear sunscreen, it is likely you are vitamin D deficient. Almost everyone is. Can you not be vitamin D deficient? For sure. But I really recommend that you get your levels checked. I spend a lot of time outside, but most of that time, my arms are covered, my face is covered in sunscreen. Sunscreen is important, team. We got to be wearing sunscreen. All of these things are important to consider when you are considering what supplements to take. Everyone knows we get vitamin D from the sun, of course, right? But most of us, again, we're wearing sunscreen, we're wearing a hat, you're wearing long sleeves, you're wearing pants. You would have to lay outside like literally all day in the sun in order to get enough vitamin D. Almost all of us are vitamin D deficient, especially since we spend I think 90% of our entire lives indoors. Like so much of our life is spent indoors. I had a patient be like, oh, well, I live in Los Angeles. No, she went and got her blood work done, vitamin D deficient. I'm like, well, how much of your day do you spend inside? And she's like, well, most of it. And I'm like, well, you go outside, do you wear sunscreen? She's like, of course. So I'm like, okay, you are likely deficient. And she was. Of course, she got her levels tested, and we talked a lot about it, more than just this, but it is important. The next one is turmeric. There's a very small study. It's not a great study, but it's a small study, and I hope that they do more work like this on turmeric for migraine. And what it said is that it can actually help attenuate or reduce the level of CGRP in a person's system at any given time. This is likely because of its effect on inflammation, which is really important. And so turmeric can be really helpful. Again, the dose is going to kind of be dependent on you. Same thing with ginger. This can also be a really potent anti-inflammatory, can also be incredibly helpful for nausea. Ginger is one of the ones that can actually thin your blood, so taking too much can be problematic. So I really recommend that you talk to your doctor about how much and what kind and things like that are right for you. The next one is omega 3s. The people say, the people being longevity people, say that 2 grams, that's a lot, not milligrams, 2 grams, which is 2,000 milligrams a day of omega 3s is how much we actually need to prevent things like Alzheimer's. Only, I think, 2% of Alzheimer's is actually genetic. The rest of it is lifestyle related there are, of course, types of Alzheimer's and dementia that are genetic for sure, but it is actually more likely that this is not going to be inherited and it actually has to do with lifestyle factors. And enough omega 3s every single day can actually be preventative for that. Other things that are going to prevent degenerative brain diseases are going to be things like exercising. You know how I feel about exercising, building lean muscle mass, doing zone 2 cardio, eating healthy foods like fresh vegetables and fruit and lean meats, things like that that you would think of as like living a active, healthy lifestyle are going to be preventative not only for brain disorders as we age, but also for migraine. And that's where omega 3s come in. There's actually some research to show that if you take omega 3s or increase the amount of omega 3s in your diet through things like avocado and fatty fish and things like that, but you will actually end up with fewer attacks and frequency of attacks because of the sensitization or desensitization of the trigeminal nerve, which is that nerve in your face that everyone points to for migraine specifically. It's what gives you tooth pain and sinus pressure and head pain and pressure and eye pain and pressure during migraine. But of course, you do not need the head pain for vestibular migraine, which we all know. So if you have vestibular migraine without head pain, that nerve is still involved. It's just not triggering any pain. So again, increasing the amount of omega 3s just generally across the board in your diet are going to be what does this. But 2 grams a day is recommended by the longevity and health span research of the world. Of course, please talk to your doctor before you do any of this. The next one is going to be melatonin. So there is some debate about whether or not melatonin is a feed forward or feedback cycle. So that basically all I'm trying to say is that if you take exogenous melatonin, meaning you take melatonin in a capsule form, will it or will it not? Who knows? Who's to say? Actually stop producing in your body. And of course, we would want our own melatonin to start production in our body around 7 or 8 p.m. every night. And then we start to feel sleepy and go to bed. Ultimately, that is what melatonin does. It shuts our brain down, saying, like, hey, let's go to bed. Shut down as in going to sleep. Super important. Some people say that about, well, depending on the study, like 3 to 12 up to 0.3 milligrams per kilogram. So it's going to be different kind of depending on the study, can be protective against migraine. So melatonin is one of those ones that I don't think I'd go to first. Like if I had this list of supplements in front of me and I was like, melatonin's number one for me, probably not. Because again, some people say that it will stop making your own endogenous melatonin. Other people say that's not true. So it's just kind of going to be like what's right for you. Please talk to your doctor about this. Of course, melatonin may or may not be right for you. And last but not least is creatine. Creatine is one that people are like, that's kind of out of left field, but let me tell you about creatine. As long as you get a good brand, my favorite brands of creatine are Thorne with an E on the end and Momentous. Momentous is the one I take every morning. I am not affiliated with them. It's just what I take every day. Creatine can actually help with brain fog and it helps with energy production, especially with fatigue. It is the most well researched and like safest supplement that exists on the market, as long as you buy a good brand, of course. You want to look at that like NSF label on it. And there's a couple other labels that are for supplements as well that I will find for you. Basically, there are a couple labels on supplements that can be trusted that say specific things on them. The one that I always look for is the NSF label. And you can look up that. It has them at Thorne has them, and so does Momentous. And those are the kinds of supplements I generally take. Pure Encapsulations is also a great supplement company. If you're a Vestibular Group Fit member, your full script account has all of these. It doesn't have Momentous, but it does have Thorne and Pure. And I love both of those. I just have great histories and great quality and all the things. And if you're a Vestibular Group Fit member, you get 30% off all of your supplements, which for most people actually ends up paying for their subscription every month because the cost of supplements is high. So if you save 30% on those, you will actually oftentimes end up paying for your Vestibular Group Fit subscription, or at least like 75% of it, which is huge because then you get everything you need to manage your vestibular disorder and your supplements. So, all that being said, back to creatine. It is a really, 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 really amazing supplement. It helps, remember in high school bio, like the powerhouse of the cell or whatever, the mitochondria, it helps it create more energy. So I find that when I personally take this every single morning, I actually feel more energized. And when I skip it for like a day or so or whatever, if I forget or it's the weekend and I just am like feeling lazy or I don't know, I'm traveling and just stuff goes haywire, whatever it is, I feel so much more exhausted and like not as well recovered as I would as when I take my creatine. So I try all of the supplements. Someone asked me the other day, do you actually like live by these principles? Blah, blah, blah. I do live by all of the principles that I tell people in Vestibular Group Fit. Like I get my morning protein. I go for a walk. I exercise every day. I get my sunlight / blue light because I wake up before the sun. Like all of the things that I preach, I absolutely practice. And it is a way of life for me. And that is the purpose of Vestibular Group Fit, is to create sustainable lifestyle changes for you to live by with your vestibular disorder so your symptoms are not bothersome at all or as much. Seriously, it is possible for you as well. So, all that to say, the ones we covered today for supplements for migraine specifically are magnesium, CoQ10, B2. Those are the generally like big ones for migraine. Vitamin D, turmeric and ginger, creatine, omega-3s, and melatonin. If you have any questions about these, feel free to reach out in Vestibular Group Fit. I am happy to answer your questions. I do not give advice, feedback, things like that outside of VG Fit. So if you would like to find me, you can find me there. You can register anytime. It is always open. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please reach out to me. Do remember that the price of Vestibular Group Fit is going up on April 1st. So sign up before then. You will be locked in forever. If you are already a member, your price is absolutely not changing. It is staying the same. As always, your price will never go up once it's locked in. If you quit and come back, then it will go up. But as long as you are a member and you stay a member, your price will remain the same. I love you, and I'll see you next time on Grounded.